Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Portsmouth Coffee Talks Evening Edition show. Running just slightly late. We had a little hiccup with email sent out, but I think we got it straight, and we expected a few more people, but hopefully they'll come on during the time while we're here. And I want to say hello to everybody, and we have the Colonel, we have Melissa, we have Conrad, and Howard. How you doing, Howard? I think I saw you on another video with Conrad and what's the shaving guy, the beard guy.
Shaving guy.
What's his name? Because
Remind me topic or something like that.
I
What was
can't
that?
remember the topic.
it was election night.
Oh, with the Arrington Gavin.
Arrington, right.
yep.
Well, welcome and welcome Howard to our show, and we're gonna kind of discuss the historical effects of religion on politics, especially during the civil rights movement. And we're going to talk about the civil rights movement, but wherever it takes us okay, did we lose Melissa? But wherever it
She
takes us
briefly
with
lost
religion
sound,
and
but she'll get
politics,
back in. Yeah.
and I'm sure she'll be back after a while. And I'm going to tell you right now, we're going to have a part two because I invited some pastors to come on, but all of them were busy, and one of them I just had a communication glitch with. But we're going to come back with a part two after whatever we discuss here, and bring some pastors in to have their perspective. I don't know, Howard, are you a pastor or is it just? Oh, okay. So we do have an authority on at least on the Bible. I think all of us have a little bit, but thanks for joining us. But anyway, we're going to talk about it. And I had something geared up that I want to play, but I'll just start off. I guess we start off with the civil rights movement that started in the 60s, early 50s and everything, and how important the Black church particularly was as far as getting everything moving. And then the political part came in as well because, they had to, once they gained the power that they had, and gained the attention of the White House and people that matter, especially with the boycotts, and they realized, oh, these are powerful people. Then the politics and the religion had to mix. And starting out, it was more of the religion part of it, because that's where the base of the people were. Let me let two of us in here. Most of the people were involved in the church, and the leadership in the church provided good guidance for that movement that was going on then. So, but it was mostly then the religion was based on equality and morality and things like that. And I guess as we talk further, we'll talk about the moral majority and how it sort of changed, how politics and religion is a little bit different now. But anyway, anybody can start off with the conversation, sort of relaying religion, politics, and how important it was to the civil rights movement.
Well,
I don't know how we want to take it to begin. Let's start with Mr. Colonel.
okay. So you said if you look back at history in the 60s, yes, the church or the Baptist church and the Black church, yes, were leaders in the civil rights movement. But we must understand that, yes, it wasn't a whole total 100% buy-in of trying to move forward. You had a lot of Baptist preachers and preachers, small preachers and large preachers of all sizes. Some wanted to go slow. Some actually says it's not our time, and let's let things go as it is. We'll be separate but equal, long as there's no damage. And then there's some that says, well, we don't want to upset the apple cart, and especially if you were down in the South, it was too dangerous for you to do that. But then at least we're fortunate to have some leaders that jumped forward, and we found a cause. We found a cause, and we found a leader, and we sort of coalesced behind. And the most popular or most famous leader that we had was Martin Luther King. And I think one of the first real big tests. Did I drop off or did y'all drop off?
I still see you.
Okay.
No, I just focusing on you.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. And then so it was the bus boycott. That's where he made his first name at. And he was a young preacher that got everything together, and we sort of broke the back of the establishment of the old South back in the day. And that was the first start that said, yes, we can do something through collective action.
Yeah, and Colonel, you said, talking about there were some internal issues, in the beginning. Some people wanted to move forward, and then some wanted to stay back, sort of like the Booker T. Washington syndrome. But some wanted to stay back. But they finally got together and said what was best for them to move on. So what was, anybody can jump in, what do you think some of the setbacks might have been in the beginning? Because it wasn't all smooth sailing in the beginning. Because like I said, internally, they had to get together before they could, approach the big boys that were making all the decisions.
Well, I'll tell you this, Colonel, and I appreciate this opportunity for this platform. I loved studying Dr. King, but I think that sometimes we don't recognize Fannie Lou Hamer.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Had it not been for Fannie Lou Hamer, who actually kind of nudged Dr. King into taking the role that he did. But some of to answer your question, a lot of times what we're seeing now is a lot of the same things that we saw back then. And so you always have these young people, and I myself was one of them, that grew up and said, if I was alive back then. Well, we see some of the same atrocities happening now where people are afraid, where people are disconnected. Dr. Howard Thurman, he wrote the book Jesus and the Disinherited. He talked a lot about, just how we're disenfranchised, how we're not connected, how we're not even connected to the beliefs that we say that we have. And so what we have a lot of times are scared Negroes who hide behind the Bible, who hide behind the pulpit, who hide behind some words.
Move on. So
I'm sorry.
I heard an echo there. I heard an echo.
Yeah.
Can you still hear an echo? I don't
No,
know.
it's gone.
It stopped. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. And so a lot of the things that we're seeing now are the same things that we saw back then. People are just afraid. And so, you had the voting issues. You had people were just afraid. That's always the main tool.
Can I chime in now?
Yes,
sir.
Yes. I'd like to again thank the Colonel for what he started on. And just recently, locally, due to some issues we have here in Maryland, I reread Dr. King's letter from a Birmingham jail. Mm-hmm. And when you read, a lot of people don't know that letter is very long. I think it's like 10 pages long. And I know it took me about 40 minutes to read the whole letter. The last 2 pages is what's most important on this program. And that is how he slammed in his nice way the what he called a contemporary church, what I like to call the sane church. When I say that, I mean the ones that's not affiliated with the evangelicals. And when you read the FBI reports, and I'm sure the Colonel read them, mm-hmm. as to what was going on during the civil rights movement, you'll be you shouldn't be surprised how many ministers sold Dr. King out. Some of them sold him out for robes and organs that play in the church and things of that nature. Mm-hmm. And then they were ordered to go out and make negative statements about Dr. King. And a lot of people, yes, the church did play a major role, but people got to change that word to the churches that took the risk did. You can go to every city in this country that Dr. King went to, and he had protests from the local ministers. And some of these ministers, they weren't called mega churches then, but some of them were the biggest ministers in this country, mm-hmm. who came up with this wait now approach, and you moving too fast, and you're a young blood, you need to listen to us. Dr. King went through all that stuff. And so when you read the last 2 pages, he said it in the nicest way, but he really was telling them to kiss his butt, because especially when he got to the point about, oh, you are not here when you see the German shepherds bite into our young people's bodies. You know, you're somewhere else. We out here doing what we're supposed to do. You up here complaining. And what the gentleman just talked about, scared Negroes, and the Colonel, I want to throw this at you. I can't deal with the term in this day and age, scared Negroes. Scared Negroes were the ones who was back there knowing what would happen if they did anything. I mean, they knew what was going to happen if they crossed the crackers in any kind of way. They had no, I mean, some people get on some of the black folks because of what they did during that time. But they had they had no choice. You was either going to do this or you were going to get whipped. Your daughter's going to get raped. Your mother's going to get raped, or whatever. You didn't have that many choices. Today we have choices. So I can't stand with the, scared Negroes today. What do you have to lose? Okay. And the thing about the Colonel that I hope you share with me, and this is I can't stand meeting military people who have been shot at and have been in combat and they scared to say something against Trump. One of my biggest problems that I've had, we're trying to get veterans enlisted at the various veterans clubs. I turned in my my card to the American Legions. I turned mine in 8 years ago. I told them I'll never walk in the door again because you people don't want to do a damn thing against Trump.
Yep.
And then I know the officers who led the fight for the name changes on the base. I was there in D.C. when they posted, and I got a lot of respect for them because they did, lead to a lot of these name changes. But then I asked them about, now that you have this done, can we move over to Trump now? And can you get officers to speak up and do that and be leaders? I can't get any of them to do it. Now, you have heard some of them on TV and radio make statements, and they have done good, like the former commander for the SEAL team. Excellent.
But okay, Louis, let's get a little ahead of ourselves, Louis. Let me go back to where we were. Let's go back to where we were. Let's take this ride down the road. Let's take this journey. And the pastor Howard mentioned about Fannie Lou Hamer and some of the people that were involved. And we were dealing with something. We talk about religion and politics. There were laws against some of the things that they were about to do. And I agree with you by saying a lot of people had that fear, about the laws that were against them and the lawlessness that was out there. Their lives were at stake. But it didn't take but a few brave people to come out there and come together. So let's talk more about, let's take this journey down the street, down the road here, talking about how they got to the point that you're talking about now, Louis. Anybody else might want to chime in and take that journey just a little slower.
Yeah, I just wanted to. I actually each person who spoke has brought up something that I don't think we should miss about the time that Dr. King was alive. When we talk about the differences in the churches, white people knew the power behind community within the Black churches. Mm-hmm. And what each one of you mentioned was something different, but it was about money. Access to money, which of course is still in 2023 an issue for Black people. And so I think when we talk about, when Dr. King was alive and I do believe I just heard Louis talking about, the churches, the contemporary churches, they're getting robes and organs and they're turning people in to get this for their church because of money, because of white people. So I think that that's something that is a common theme, and you can even see it in the church.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and a lot of things that weren't mentioned often too, that how many of the white churches were involved. I mean, you look at the different denominations, the Lutheran Church was heavily involved in civil rights back then, a lot of other denominations. And a lot of different denominations derived from all the things that were going on. You had the AME Church and everything like that. But that's a whole different story.
But those white churches, though, were still participating in white supremacy, even some of the ones that we say were very involved in civil rights movement. There were still majority, and when I say majority, I mean majority. They were still upholding the way we do today, white supremacy, through the church. And so I just don't want to lose. I'm not here to bash the church, but I have my opinions about the evangelical church versus your AMEs and some other of your predominantly historically Black churches, right? But that's all I wanted to say about that. And I saw Howard, you were excited to say something about my money thing.
Yeah, I really love what you're saying, because a lot of people, this is from my understanding, that many people think that Dr. King was murdered, that he was murdered because of civil rights. But it wasn't until he took a stand on two things, on the Vietnam War, and then he was really assassinated when it came to financial empowerment. And when he started making those stands, then this Dr. King that we embrace today, he was hated. He didn't have a friend in the world.
That's right.
By the time he died. His final book that he wrote was Where Do We Go From Here, Chaos or Community, which is now about 55 years since it was written, but in that book, he just talked about the financial disenfranchisement and all of those types of things. So yeah, when you talk about the money, that really is that really is. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, think about it, right? So by the time that Dr. King was assassinated, they couldn't pull a Tulsa. Okay? They couldn't take away Black Wall Street.
Yeah.
That had been done 40 years ago.
Yep.
They had to be more civil in the way they did it. So they focused on Dr. King.
Yeah.
Most people are getting a watered down version of Dr. King.
Yes.
Just like you said, Howard, the reason he was so hated was some of the speeches he made that we never heard that part of it. We just heard that I Had a Dream. He was addressing a lot of those issues.
Remember
that,
the
like
night
you
before.
That made him more hated than his going to the mountaintop.
Yeah, I'll tell you, it's a lot of the same things that we're seeing that they've always been around. When we look at this Black versus white thing and the Black church against the white church, really, it's really that's almost like a non-existent thing. It's about something greater that causes us to use color, to keep us divided.
Money.
It's about that money. Because you look at let's even go back a little bit further in the 1800s with Nat Turner and John Brown, where they have
heavily Christian revolt.
I'm sorry, go ahead. Yes.
But they were heavily Christian individuals.
Yeah.
You've seen Good Lord Board, which is a great fictionalized version of John Brown. Yeah. He was speaking that all the time. That came out of him, his religious. Nat Turner famously was brought up reading the Bible and teaching other people it.
Yeah.
They were heavily involved in their own churches, if you will.
Yeah.
It went back to the 1800s, as you said.
Yeah. And then, even Nat Turner recognized that the redacted Bibles that we were still, about maybe 30 years ago, I realized that preachers today were still preaching from the redacted Bibles, Peter, James, and John. They had the whole Bible ahead of them, but they were preaching on the slave verses. And it was a way of keeping themselves empowered and keeping everybody else marginalized. And again, it's about the dollar.
I like to jump on what the young lady was saying about bashing the church, because I'm one of those people, I love to bash the church. Mm-hmm. And I love to bash the church, especially in our day and time that we're living in now. Because just like the churches didn't stand, a lot of churches, meaning 90% of them now, did not stand up during King's time same percentage is not standing up now against Trump. You haven't had one denomination, one convention, no orders in this country that have had a press conference standing in front of CBS, NBC, or whatever, with the Bibles in their hand saying, come on, people, this man has told you what he's going to do, and you still haven't had a groundswell of our religious leaders. But I want to say the last thing about money, then I'm going to be quiet. And the Colonel, I know you're going to be right with me on this one. When the young lady mentioned the money, one of the things that Dr. King was going to do was going to go to the UN with some other gentlemen to talk about the military industrial complex and other things dealing with the war. And the gentleman was on a show recently, and I think he was on MSNBC talking about Dr. King and his relationship with Dr. King. He said a lot of people didn't know that. And he said that he had a fear that he would never make it to that meeting with the UN. And when he talked about the money. And the Colonel knows the term, the military industrial complex.
Yes.
If you notice right now, as we speak, billions of dollars are going to two countries. Now, where is that money coming from? Who's getting the most money from it? And I support those issues, by the way. But the point people got to understand is somebody's getting paid all that money for the weapons and things of that nature. So when Dr. King was against the war, he was messing with some forces that did not want to be messed with. And I like to have the Colonel to speak about that himself, because I know you agree with me on that.
Yeah, it's big time money in starting and sustaining and keeping us when we're not in war, and keeping us on a war fighting status. And so you just churn through money. But I think that if we want to re-look at everything, you look at Dr. King, that was only what he was doing had just not by marching and doing everything. We had a multi-front effort to have civil rights. People don't talk about like Malcolm X, and he wanted, we talk about what he wanted to do in helping folks, and said Malcolm X, and then we had Black Panthers,
Stokely Carmichael,
Fred Hampton.
Yeah, and there were others had a different idea of how to move the ball forward. Dr. Martin Luther King had a thing that we could win by, I guess, the better thing, win by love, turn the other cheek, or whatever. Nonviolent ways. But then you had the others that also moved the ball down the court. And I think somebody mentioned about the scared Negroes. I just wanted to make a point that, yes, scared Negroes exist today, but they've turned into apathetic Negroes that are complacent with the status quo. And they are letting things happen, especially in the age of Trump, which we are at today, happening there and allowing that happen because they don't go to the polls and don't exercise their right to vote. And so I'll go down that road there. So now, as I digress, we look at Dr. Martin Luther King, even though we had the church as our organizing piece, because the Black church at the time was the carrier call where we had people get together. But he had a piece where Thurgood Marshall in the court system to try to win through the courts, because the courts set the laws, and you had to get things to the Supreme Court to change the laws of the land. And you had like Brown versus the Board of Education.
Yes.
Some of the other big cases that helped us get to where we are today. But as you see, as time goes on, those in like Loving versus the state of Virginia, and Oberthel, Hodges, and Reed versus Reed, and some of these other court cases that help move civil rights forward, they're being turned back as we speak because of who? The Republican Party.
And Donald Trump.
in Donald Trump because they have they've almost finished gutting the voting
Voting
rights.
Rights Act. Mm-hmm.
And so people need to wake up and see who's on your side. And I was reading the poll. Actually, I see it every day where it's saying a lot of Black folks are starting to turn toward looking at Biden and saying, I don't support him or I'm losing faith in him. What is your other choice?
Right.
You have looking at Trump, who is the biggest racist out there. And you said, yes, and I'm a military officer and I will call him out and have always called him out. Mm-hmm. And what has he done for Black folks?
I like to ask, my question is this then. If these are our only two options in a country that has about 350 million people, what is the problem? Because we have so many qualified people. We have to then ask the question, why are these our only two options?
I will tell you, in the last election, Joe Biden was the only one who was going to beat Trump.
That's right.
It wasn't necessarily true.
He's the only one that's going to beat Trump. I will tell you that.
You think?
Only one.
I sometimes I really believe it really goes back to what happened during the World War I and World War II. Some of the propaganda that's being set out there, and it's sitting right here. Mm-hmm. If they can get you to believe that these are only two options, then they don't have to do another marketing ad for anybody else.
Yeah,
because I think if we even take a poll, we know some people personally that could beat anybody that's running.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I mean, I have to believe that I could run, and I don't even want to run down the street, but I know I could run.
But you got to have money behind.
Do a better job.
It's the money.
There was an earlier theme that we had that a lot of stuff wasn't done because of fear. And that is another thing that might hold a lot of people back is we're so fearful of Trump that we have to, by fear, support Biden.
Yeah.
Maybe we can step back from the fear and just look at the fact that there could be other options if we allow them to be.
Yeah.
Look at
ranked choice voting.
Yeah.
If we don't push for ranked choice voting, we can't have that.
Yeah.
And we did have a show on third party options, and we talked extensively about that and how beneficial it could be. But you go right back to the money and if you look at the third parties, people that are running now that are polling at 3% and 2%, and probably just don't have the money to make it to be viable candidates. And Howard, you said there's some people out here that probably could beat either one of them, but it takes a lot more than just saying I'm gonna run for president.
Well,
Elizabeth Warren, I mean, I'm just saying.
I mean, I could list a few people that definitely could beat Trump if they were able to get into the race. I think that, but going back to the money and back to the church, like bringing it back around to that. If you
and the politics
and the politics, okay, which is so we all can agree that church, regardless of race, is a central focal part of our communities. The amount of money because of community in church, not just flowing to the church, but flowing to politicians. You want to know why the Republican Party has a lot of money? Because they favor white people, wealthy people, and white people who congregate in churches. And then when you look at the moral majority, you see, right, the moral majority. And then when you see how the Democratic candidates struggle with fundraising, I mean, name me a predominantly white church that is also would be a predominantly Democrat voting bloc. I'm going to tell you it does not exist. It does not exist. So then you go to a black church, right? Where you may still have the apathy in the voting as far as like showing up to vote. But I would venture to say majority are probably Democratic voters, right? And so when you look at it from that perspective, you can see why the money is central to the Republican Party and how well they do, I should say, in recruitment into politics and fundraising in politics out of the church.
Let me speak on that, on the money part in the church, because a lot of things is always missing on that. You notice everything that you said about the white money is 100% correct. And then you have to ask yourself, why is it the black church are afraid to speak up? And I'm going through this here locally. I mentioned it to James the first time we talked, was that I try to get the ministers here, 12 ministers, to stand up to denounce Donald Trump. Of the 12, 10 of them gave the lame excuse about, well, we don't want nobody looking at our books. We don't want to have to face the taxes and stuff like that. And I say to them, I said, look here. I said, that's a lame excuse. And I used French. And I said, Donald Trump sat in over 16 churches where they took, not only did they pass the plate when he was there, you even have him pulling out a cheap $10 bill to put into the plate. And not only did they raise the money for him in the church, they told the people to go out and vote for Donald Trump in the church. Now, technically, if you want to go by the taxes that was started with the Bushes, Bush 1 was the one who did it, and that's too long to get into now, but they put the fear of God into black churches in Bush 1. When Bush 1 did that, all these churches used this as a punk, get out of being involved free card. Because every time I talk to them, and I hope y'all can speak on your local churches, but I know for a fact, I've been to Baltimore, D.C., in Philadelphia, and I heard the same story. We don't want nobody looking in our books. We don't want nobody messing with them. We don't want to have no tax trouble with the people. That's the excuse that they use for not getting involved in everything. Mm-hmm. So you have a large segment of the church with that kind of fear. You can see why that money is not flowing. You're 100% correct, but you can't flow because a scared Negro. We keep coming back to being scared Negroes.
Right. And at the end of the day, right, when if the white churches start feeling the pressure of the government looking at their books, those white folks are going to be going after the black churches.
And they're not doing it though. The white churches are getting away with it, where the black churches are afraid to even raise their head. And I said, well, look, why can't you put this sign out? And I asked them, I said, put out this sign that said the devil is a liar and so is Trump. You could put that on your church ground as long as you don't say, oh, okay, vote for Trump, but you can definitely say the devil is a liar, so is Trump. Ask me how many of them agree to do it.
Not many.
I can say this about, at least say this about Portsmouth. One of the most influential groups in Portsmouth, as far as politics is concerned, as far as their endorsement of local candidates that have been successful over the years, it's called the Martin Luther King Leadership Steering Committee, which is comprised of mostly pastors representing their churches. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the strongest groups, and that's here locally. It's not, because they tried to strike the fear of God in them through the IRS by threatening to take their nonprofit status away from them, and it worked. On some of the preachers' churches that are here.
I think,
but for the most part, they got around it, and here in the city of Portsmouth, they are supporting, candidates politically. And getting around that. And the reason they're not getting so much flack because a lot of all the other candidates want to go into those churches. The only ones that complain about is the ones that are not supported by those churches. And they try to strike fear in them. But it doesn't work here.
I'd say the caveat would be,
could you do me a favor? And I will come down to see this, okay? Will you do me this please favor? Whatever the number of pastors that are in this church, image means everything. Image means everything. If that is what you say is true, and you and one of the gentlemen here, you're a pastor also, correct?
Yes.
Yes. Now, Let's think about this. You have not seen this image. I would like to have 12 pastors at a press conference with the Bibles and the robes on, news media there, all 3 stations or 4 stations in Portland. When I left, was on the 3 stations. I don't know how many stations they are now.
Still 3.
Press conference and say, we are here to condemn and denounce the conduct of Donald Trump. We want to say to our congregation, this is a man that has no resemblance to Jesus. And we would like to encourage our brother ministers in every city, in every state in the United States of America to follow us with this press conference and say exactly what I just said. And they can use their own words. Now, if you can get that done in Portugal, and James, I told James earlier about what I put my money behind. I put my money behind my mouth. If you get 12 ministers to do that, I'll make a donation to each one of their youth services. And I don't mean no small amount either. If you could do that for me, give me a phone call and let me know you got 12, and I'll be down there in 4 hours.
Yeah, I can't speak for them, but I'm sure some of them are watching. One in particular I know is watching tonight. But I have seen them come out with press conferences and supporting, backing up city officials that they feel like have been done wrong. To come out in a force like that to denounce Trump, I don't know about that, but the way that I said it, you have not seen that anywhere in America. Now, we all seen those Uncle Toms put their hands on Trump on 4 or 5 different occasions. Even one of the King relatives was at one of those events. I personally confronted the sellout Uncle Tom from Cleveland, who was one who said Trump was the best president Black people have ever had. I won't tell you all the French I used when I met him. I can imagine. So
the image, gentlemen,
French, German, Spanish, and all that
image. And if we can do it, I don't care. I try to get it done here for 4 years. I've tried to get it done here in Maryland, DC, and Baltimore. Haven't got it done yet. I don't care if it's done in Podunk, Idaho. If we can get those 12 ministers with that Bible in front of their face, in front of their chest, all saying the same thing in unison, I know that will go and reverberate around the country. But we have not seen that. And that's why I'm trying to get to the people. We have not seen that. And I want to put the minister here on blast right now. I would like you to play a part in getting 12 of your brothers to get together and do that. I swear, if you do that, we'll set something for this country.
Get in there. Like I said, I think they're watching.
Well,
please do it.
Do it. Hand up, Conrad. Let me say this here. If you ever heard anything I've ever ministered over the last 35 years, 35, I don't choose whether it's a Republican or Democrat. I am more Republican, which means it's the same bird, 2 different wings. Mm-hmm. On some things, I'm Democrat. On some things, I'm Republican. But I support my country. And so I've got at least 4 years of teachings that you can listen to on YouTube or on social media, on Instagram. You can hear anything I've said. Now, herein lies the problem with that. I guarantee you can find 12 people, 12 pastors who will say that just for the dollar alone on that instance. But if you know anything about me and the ministry that we have, we give out about 200% more than we ever take in. And the reason why you probably have not heard my name is because I'm not in any of those clubs or cliques. Because I stand by the gospel. And I can never be bought. You don't have enough money to buy a vote.
I like that.
And because I value my eternal place more than anything I could ever gain here. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. I've got to do it though. At least 3 years with the teaching online. Where I was on
we got to do it though.
Yeah. Go ahead, Conrad. Do you want to get in?
I'm going to try and threaded from the start because the premise, of course, is religion and the civil rights movement, and it's important to realize that it's not just Christianity that had religions that played a fact towards us. We mentioned Malcolm X; that's the Nation of Islam, and he was probably more active than a lot of the other individuals in order to get it going because he was striving for action. There was one quote that I'm reminded that he said. When he was fighting that fight, is that there is no more segregated place than church on Sunday. So he might have a little bit of a critique of church there, but he was still trying to instigate more change. And this goes back to what we had already discussed in this discussion that I think Melissa touched on that the church isn't itself one whole. The church is going to be a largely Black church versus a white church because they're going to be fighting for different things. So if you go back to what Mr. Bracey's talking about now, about he thinks it might be significant to get 12 pastors that are trying to say they're very anti-Trump. If we do this in Portsmouth, for instance, it would come out as looking to Black versus white. And that isn't necessarily going to get the ball rolling in a collective manner if it starts with division and stays with the division, because the white pastors aren't necessarily going to share the same opinion.
I'm just saying, find the church, the minister, every church, every city that I know, you have they have what they call a ministerial alliance. In Baltimore, they have a joint ministerial alliance where they have all the congregations, all the denominations. They meet once a month to talk about issues in the city. DC have a similar thing. I'm sure they have something like that in Portland and Norfolk also. So what I'm saying is this: I don't know a minister worth his salt who don't know 2 or 3 white ministers, regardless of what the faith is, who are friends of theirs. I don't, and I know the big ministers know more than a dozen who think the same way. I'm not asking for anything that's not impossible. I'm not asking for anything that can't be done. I'm just trying to get people to see the vision. I don't want them all to be all white, all Black. I like to have a mixed group of people, like-minded people, who look at Trump in the exact same way and to say and to speak to America. I'm asking them to speak to America from a biblical point of view. I'm not even putting the words in their mouth. Look at it from a biblical point of view and speak to the congregation and speak to America about the danger of this man. Image we have not seen. We need that image.
But there are people that think that Trump is like the second coming.
Yeah.
And so and that's a huge issue, is because we have people who legitimately idolize that man. And I think, too, when we're looking at the when it comes to a political candidate, but I think all of us can see that Trump in no way represents, if you abide by biblical values or any other book, whether it's the Torah, the Quran, like, we can all agree that he meets he's well below expectations, right? But we can't even get people to even admit any of his shortcomings, even with evidence. And so then you have a society that has been built around don't talk about sex, religion, and politics. Shame is wrapped around all 3 of those things. And I look at that because I go, if you vote for Republicans at this point, like, you should be ashamed of yourself. And I always said that my parents were ashamed of voting. They didn't even know it because they still vote Republican. But like, if you don't want to talk about your politics because you know that it doesn't truly align with what's right for everyone. Mm-hmm. And you can't say you can't even admit to yourself, if you're white, that you are a racist. I am a white person. I am inherently racist. I work every single day to be an anti-racist. And that work is daily. It is daily. I have been programmed. I have been indoctrinated. And generations of people in this country have been also. And
That's
so
true. And some of us have also.
Right.
And as you talk about, the message, trying to get that message out against Trump. And just like you said, Melissa, there's a lot of people, you're just not going to change that. And we talked on this show about messaging, and that messaging has to come from a higher place, like the Biden administration, and trickle down. It's not going to mean much if we bashing Trump and we're not getting the message out about what they are actually doing. And while we bashing Trump, they are putting out their message about what Trump is not doing, and we're not following up or following through with what we're doing. All of us here on this panel knows what Biden has done and what Trump has done, but not the majority of the people. And if any of you probably worked on the polls like we have, those people walking to the polls to vote, how uninformed they are, and it's alarming. And so that messaging has to get out. We have to send more of a message about what we're doing than trying to convince people not to vote for Trump. I mean, those people he has those people locked up.
But
I'm talking about locked up here. Their brains are locked.
They are. And we have religion intersecting with politics in a way that you are going to be hard pressed to get people the single issue voters. And what is the one issue that truly divides people that is always related back to religion?
Abortion.
This is why I keep hopping on this point, is that locally I talk to the ministers and I say, we need a moral imperative. And the minister that's on the panel know what the moral imperative is. I have used the term moral imperative now for 8 solid years. The moral imperative is that God has given us a vision. If you go back and you think about for a second, Barack Hussein Obama during the time of the Persian Gulf War, Saddam Hussein, that was his last name, who's Saddam Hussein. Then we have a president get elected from a single mother named Barack Hussein Obama. That was a sign right there from God, okay? Then when that was over, God gave us another choice. They say, are you going to pick a flawed woman or an insane white man? Okay. Because of what we're talking about right now, how people will sit home quickly. People say, well, I don't like Hillary, so I'm going to sit home. That is just stupid. So because you don't like Hillary, you want to vote for an insane madman. And that's what the kids are going through today, which has been done by the Russian trolls and the NRA. We keep hearing over and over and over again how old Biden is. Yes, he's old, but as I said, I'd rather have an old working F-50 truck than a broken down Studebaker that's in the yard. And that's what Trump is, a broken down Studebaker. I'd rather have a working 1960 F-50 truck that's still on the road today than to have Donald Trump in there. And that's when it comes back again to the moral factor.
Well, can I ask a question?
One thing we don't have is that moral factor. That's why I'm trying to say we got to get that moral factor in the front of this march. If we don't get the moral factor in the front of this march, Trump is not going to win anyway. But we got to have him destroyed.
He very much could.
Lewis, let a question be asked.
Let me ask this question, because I know we started off talking about civil rights and those types of things and the church. Now I'm wondering at what direction are we going? Because let's say we form a march. What direction are we marching? And we're talking about the moral standard. Now, if you're going to bash the church, what moral standard are we going to stand on? What will be the fabric of the moral standard?
I see a lot of hypocrisy. I see a lot of hypocrisy in the church, which is, and I'm an atheist, right? So when we talk about moral, right, from a position of morality, I establish my personal morality based on how I treat other people. And how I want to, not even how I want to be treated. It's I want to treat people how they want to be treated. And I'm going to make the assumption that everybody wants to be treated with love and kindness. And so, but that's the problem. If we get to a place of where it's focused on morality, where does that morality come from?
Yeah,
For
you're
like
right.
me as an atheist, because lots of people say because I'm an atheist that I'm an immoral person.
No, I'll tell you this. I've got friends who, and they're literally my friends, who are Satanists.
Mhm.
I mean, you know,
Well, they're Satanists
who,
because they don't believe in Satan, and it's really
no,
it's a off. You
no,
know
no,
what I mean?
no,
Yeah.
they're self-proclaimed Satanists.
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
You
yeah.
know,
Right.
they're self-proclaimed, and what it is this right here. And they said, if I knew you were a pastor, I wouldn't have been your friend. I said, well, see, that's why I just let you know my name is Howard.
Yeah.
You know, and then we have questions for each other. We talk to each other. Now, it doesn't change my belief.
That's right.
It doesn't change my belief to be human. And a lot of times, what some things I had to work on is, even though I may treat you like you want to be treated, I really need to feel a loving and compassion for you as a human being. And that a lot of times is not preached across the pulpits. It's not preached across the airways. And this is why we have so much disconnect, because it's kind of like a story I heard about 10 or 15 years ago about these guys who were part of the Ku Klux Klan. And they were really teaching and preaching against hating blacks and hating Jews and hating everybody else. And then then the guy asked a question, who was being initiated. He said, well, once we get rid of all the blacks, once we get rid of all the Jews, then what are we going to go against? And the guy looked back at him and said, we're going to go against people with red hair. He had red hair. So it's just a matter of,
There's always somebody.
We're going to find some reason to hate somebody.
He went sideways.
Once we get rid of that, then we can find the moral issue.
You shouldn't have brought up that Satan person. Look what happened.
Here's my theme, though. It wouldn't necessarily be true that it is itself religion, i.e. Christianity, that makes the civil rights movements happen. And for instance, I don't necessarily think we're out of the civil rights movement. We're constantly in the civil rights movement. And we're always going to have versions of pushback. And if you look even at the people who have pushbacks, and for instance, in Mr. Howard's example, the Ku Klux Klan, they're very religious people too.
Yeah.
And if you have an enemy who themselves view that they have the church behind them, then I wouldn't necessarily think it is the church that is the push. It's the group who simply wants to be right-minded. And that instance, why it could be a good thing that we could have a little bit more diversity within churches that might open it up a little bit. And that's what I would suggest that we do.
I would just like to say that the Ku Klux Klan, I mean, yeah, they might say that they believe in Christ, but y'all seen them sign up cards in the 1920s? They have like the wizard and not kingdom, but another word for king. I mean, it is some Dungeons and Dragons.
There's some little
They call
witchcraft in
themselves
there.
grand wizards and stuff like
Hey,
that.
why does my picture look like a Spike Lee movie?
That's what I want to know. Why are you sideways?
Yeah, I think he got tired and laid down. You can do this laying down, can't you, Howard?
I know, right?
But anyway, we have come to that 8 o'clock hour, and I said in the beginning it was going to be a part 2 to this, and I'll say this. One of the things that from the civil rights movement in the 60s up until now, one common denominator is politics. Through all those years, and what we're dealing with now, politics is a part of all these things that we've mentioned tonight, and it comes down to elections matter, so we're going to continue this. I don't know if it'd be next week, maybe next week, and bring some more people in there and get some other ideas about what we were talking about. But what a nice conversation we've had concerning this issue. And I appreciate everyone that came on tonight. But we still want to give you an opportunity to have a last comment before we go off tonight. And Colonel, you want to start us off?
Okay, yes, I'll try to wrap this up real quick. What I wanted to say is, one, we are living in a evidence-free, truth-free society, and that has allowed Trump and the MAGA folks to get away with pertinent murder. They can say anything they want to say, lie about anything, and then we have to go back and try to fact check it. And you'll notice that Conrad Trump will only do softball interviews with Sean Hannity, but he won't see anybody else. Won't get out in front of the camera and have to answer any good questions. So I'll go back to that. So the other thing is, I think Howard would talk about, one, why are some of the Black preachers scared to talk about Trump or politics? And one is because of the tax exemption law, but they just need to ask somebody and then read up on what is my rights to that I won't step over the line of and lose my tax exempt law, and that's hardly ever happens. You have really got to be out there to lose that. But
That's correct.
Yes. So the last piece is we are losing in the court system. Trump put in 3 non-qualified, crooked judges to the Supreme Court. They have, they have a 6-3 majority, and you see what's happening with them. Every case that's come before the Supreme Court, we should all shudder because we know it's going to be, if it's going to be a negative piece to effect on people. And if you look at what is happening and what is going to happen, you know, they overturn, when we talk about abortions, they overturn that, but they're coming after your birth control next. So how are you going to, in? So the little pill that your spouse or your girlfriend or whoever takes, when they take that away, what are you going to do when the pregnancy comes and you are not allowed, when they put this nationwide abortion ban, and that's what they're going to do on you, on America. So they put this on there, and they overturned over 50 years of settled law under the equal protection statutes in the Constitution. And so they are overturning everything. Even if you look at the Heart of Atlanta Motel versus United States they look back at the Commerce Clause to stop discrimination because of race, religion, or origins. And you look at cases in, say, Colorado when they allowed the...
that was the wedding cake.
Yeah, the wedding cake. That was only the start.
Yeah.
So they are legalizing, this Supreme Court is legalizing discrimination across this nation. And we have to look out and say this is what's happening. And these young folks that are saying that you're going to, I don't like somebody and I'm going to stay home, you might as well stay home. You might as well get you a ticket and go cross seas, because they are going to, Trump is going to come to get you. And the Republican Party is coming, when they get around to it, they're coming for you. That I rest my peace.
Okay, Lewis, and keep in mind that we are having a part 2, so keep that in mind. So your last comments.
Okay, and I know why you're saying it, because I'm sorry, panelists, I am very passionate, and sometimes it's hard to get me to stop.
I appreciate. Hey, look, Lewis, how long have I known you? Go ahead.
I wrote this down before I came on.
Oh, okay.
It's going to take me 1 minute, and I'm gonna stick to that. The courts, young people, God, hardball. Democrats need to learn how to play hardball politics.
Yes.
They still haven't learned how to do hardball politics. Republicans will run anything down. We know that through the courts because they rammed 2 of those selections that the colonel mentioned. They rammed them down our throat. Obama had a chance to do something with Merrick Garland on the recess thing, but no, he was trying to be nice. He was trying to be polite. I personally wrote a letter to him. I say, do it during the recess. They can't do nothing when it's recess. He wouldn't do it, of course. Now you see where we are at. Young people. When you hear to these young people and they talk that crap about not wanting to vote because he's old and stuff like that, Ask them a simple question. Who the one who put out the thing just yesterday, $4 billion to take people off having to pay anything? What has Trump done? What has Republican done? If you can't understand that, you're too stupid to be in college in the first place. Last point, if Obama did it, we would not be having none of these conversations. Everybody know that. So my point comes down again. We can't let our people, we can't let the church off the hook when it comes to the reality of if Obama did it, we would not be having this conversation. Obama would have been executed. You and all of us know that. So there's no excuse for me, for anyone not to understand the reality of that. Now, I gave that real quick thing, but I'm coming back to again, that image. We got to have that image. And if you do it in Portsmouth, Virginia, I guarantee you that image will go and get picked up and it go around the country. Let's get that thing in Portsmouth. I beg of you, I am done.
And Conrad, I'm gonna go to you next, but before we go there, Reverend Dr. Melvin O'Mariner was watching, and he had a comment to help us out here. As long as the local church itself does not vote to endorse any candidate, as long as the church doesn't vote, the pastor or anyone else can speak and personally endorse anyone without jeopardizing the church's 501(c)(3)
that way it
status.
stays separate.
Yes.
Right. The local church, and you know, we talked about how people tried to use that against some churches that had scared them away, said they would take away their nonprofit status. The local church cannot place their church logo on any political ad. Thanks, Dr. Melvin. I appreciate that. Anyway, Conrad, we'll go to you next for your last statement.
Well, let's see if I can get my little, there it is, Shez Who moniker to come back up on my screen there. I have my own little show, Shez Who. I like to talk politics, so I like people to come by YouTube sometimes and hit like on that channel so you can watch my version of Speaking on Politics. But tonight I would like to underline our theme here about religion and the history of civil rights. I wouldn't necessarily say that it is because of religion that we got a lot of civil rights pushed, but it did push a lot of people to push for the right things. And that is something that we can do right now when we continually fight for modern day versions of civil rights. I would probably call on, say, our Democrat Party to be more willing to fight for the important things. That's going to be very economically popular positions and socially popular positions that they need to want to be more willing to do that as opposed to just trying to be anti-Trump, because you're really going to lose people's ears in their attention span if you keep trying to harp on being anti-Trump. You need to be very good at what you're running on. And right now, I don't really see a lot of Biden doing that himself. And that is my own little critique on that, because I think that we need to just be better as a party in order to overcome his rising momentum right now.
Okay, I want to go to you next, Howard, and when you finish, give us the information how to see some of the things that you're doing on Facebook as well. And I appreciate you letting us know that you are Republican. You know, one of the things that Portsmouth Coffee Talk likes to have here is diversity. Especially with our panel of conversations, you know, it gives us a broader perspective of how people really feel. And that's why I say Melissa to the last, you know, she said she was a atheist, and we appreciate her saying that, because we want to know, you know, I mean, you can't, you know, wave off that, you know, because you're talking about religion. You can't, you know, wave what she has to say about it as well. But go ahead, Howard.
Instead of atheist, can you deal with agnostic, or do you have to be an atheist?
I don't subscribe to I mean, some people might call me agnostic, but I mean, I was a member of the Christian church for a long time. And so I'm not speaking from not having experienced nor read the Bible myself. And I just I don't believe in heaven or hell or any of that. And so, yeah, so I consider myself to be an atheist, but I have a respect because I understand the necessity of religion for many people.
Yeah. And we will have a talk about that transformation. Maybe you can come on the Show Nation 101s and we can have a personal talk about that transformation.
Yeah.
All right, Pastor Howard.
And again, I do really appreciate this opportunity that you've given and the platform that you share. I often say this, that bad things happen when people just don't talk.
Yes.
You know, then you're kind of left in what we are seeing now in more of a myopic state of where we are, where it's just about me and my vision, my view, my goal. You know, everybody's views I can appreciate. I look at life through this lens right here. That it's my duty and my job to love who you are. And even if I have to deny who I am, and I'm not saying deny my beliefs, but deny myself to love you, because I'm not that big. And but in order to find us, you can look for us on any of our teachings. It's about 3 years worth of teachings on Spirit and Truth Covenant Assembly on YouTube, and we really just teach a kingdom message. You know, even a kingdom reach theology, I would say. You know, where it's just about the kingdom of God. You know, and that's it. So I really appreciate this opportunity again, and thank you again.
Yeah, and thanks for coming on, and look for invitation again in the future.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, the only lady on the panel tonight, and usually ladies are first, but I saved the best for last. So
Oh, thanks. I appreciate
let's let me spotlight you and give your last comments.
Well, thank you so much. First of all, I need to know, Colonel, did you say pert near? Did I hear that right?
I don't know. I was saying so much. It was like, I probably did because I like pert near.
Pert near. I caught that and I was like, I don't lose that in my brain. I need to bring that up. Did the Colonel say pert near? But
It's in the dictionary.
Yes. It is always a pleasure coming on Portsmouth Coffee Talk. I love this panel. Every time I learn something, every time I'm up here. And so when it comes to religion, when I say I don't want to, earlier when I said I don't want to bash it, because I do understand that there are people that need to believe in something other than themselves or other than this world that we live in. I personally, this is just my meat suit. You know, I'm got to take care of it while I'm here. I don't know where my sentience is going to go once my meat suit has failed me. So, you know, we'll just continue going on this little journey on Earth. But I really love to talk about people's belief systems and why they have their belief systems. But I just don't want that. I don't want anything about my existence in this world and how I can move through this world, or anybody else how they can move through this world based on someone's personal belief system. Because until we have real documented evidence that millions of people who don't believe that there is evidence, until we have that satisfactory evidence, then I think that what we should do is work as a civil society to make sure that everybody's needs are met, and that everybody can worship whom or what they worship and have the freedom to do so. So that's kind of my position on that. And I want to just close with a message to my white politicians. And I know some of you have seen this before, but I just wanted to share this again for anybody that may be watching and knows white politicians. Dear white politicians, do not go to Black churches and tell them how much you hate racism.
Mm-hmm.
Go to the white churches.
Mm-hmm.
Them.
Yeah.
So that is all I would like to say about that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's definitely a good message and a correct message. A message I would also relate to my white friends. That's what we need you. We need you there. We
That's
know
right.
where we are. in our church.
That's right.
So
My
we need
favorite
you
thing
there.
to do is to talk to white people. I love talking to white people.
Yeah. We will follow up on that. We will hold you to that. But anyway, I'd like to thank all the people. I like the people watching to know that we have people from all over. We have Virginia Beach. Of course, Lewis is living in Maryland now. He's from Portsmouth. And the Colonel is in Suffolk. And Conrad is from Virginia Beach, but he got wise and now resides in Portsmouth, the great city.
Hashtag West Haven.
And Howard, I believe you're from Virginia Beach.
I'm from DC, but I'm now everything we're doing is in Chesapeake.
Okay, you got here as quick as you can from DC.
I'm trying to
No
get back.
longer Chocolate City, so you had to come down here.
I'm trying to get back.
Right. I hear you. Anyway, thanks again, everybody. We appreciate you, and please join us next Monday at 6:30 when we have another a panel discussion to be announced. But
Hey, Jay. I have my Buffalo Soldiers hat on in honor of the Colonel, the 9th and 10th Cavalry. That's all.
Right. Yeah.
okay, thanks. We honor that as well. And be aware, be informed, and most of all, be involved. And informed voting matters. Informed voting matters. Make sure you use your voice, your vote as your voice. Take care. We'll see you next time.
Good night.
Portsmouth Coffee Talk.
Nice. Thank
Good night.
you.
Enjoy myself.